It's an important dinner, she said, eyes on the mirror, not on me. My dad wants you there. Don't make it weird. Of course, I said. That was my first weapon. Calm. Not because I didn't care, because panic makes you sloppy. Panic makes you shout and chase and give people the footage they want. Lauren's father, Gordon Hale, ran his world like a private club. He wasn't just wealthy. He was the kind of wealthy that made people laugh too hard at his jokes. He built luxury developments, sold the dream, and treated everyone like part of the staging. For weeks, the air in our home had been full of this dinner. Gordon's Japanese client. A partnership big enough to turn his company into something national. Every conversation felt like it ended with the same line from Lauren. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. This matters, Evan. Don't embarrass me. As if my existence was a risk. Lauren walked out to the living room, heels clicking, phone in hand. It buzzed. She turned the screen away from me without thinking, like pulling a curtain. You ready? She asked. Yeah, I said. Give me a second. She watched me put on my coat like she was timing a delivery. Just be normal, she said. I am normal, I replied. She gave a thin smile. You know what I mean. I did know. Normal meant quiet. Normal meant agreeable. Normal meant I didn't ask why she'd been working late so often, why she'd started guarding her phone like it carried state secrets, why she'd stopped saying goodnight unless it was convenient. Normal meant I stayed useful. On the drive to Seacliff Lodge, Lauren kept the radio low and her answers shorter than they used to be. You're quiet, she said, staring at the road like it was safer than looking at me. Thinking about work, I replied. Always, she said, like it was a joke. But her mouth didn't fully believe it. Work was the reason we lived in that apartment, the reason Lauren had the wardrobe she never let wrinkle, the reason Gordon tolerated me even before he decided I was disposable. I'm a facilities and security systems project manager. Translation: when a building needs to be safe, functional, and not fall apart, a guy like me gets called. Cameras, access control, fire panels, locks, HVAC, the boring bones that keep rich people comfortable. I'd worked overseas too. Years ago, a contract had sent me to Japan for months at a time. I didn't learn Japanese to impress anyone. I learned it because when you're negotiating permits at 2 a.m. with someone who doesn't smile unless you say the right thing, language stops being cute. Lauren knew I could order food and say hello. She didn't know the rest. She didn't care. Seacliff rose out of the dark. Glass walls, heated stone, valet lanes lined with black SUVs. Snow dusted the pines. The ocean behind it was black and restless, waves slamming the rocks like they had a grudge. Gordon met us in the lobby with his signature hard handshake. Evan, he said, testing my grip like he was inspecting a tool. Glad you could make it. Lauren kissed his cheek. Hi, Dad. He looked at her like she was his best investment. The Japanese client arrived with 2 colleagues. The lead negotiator was Mr. Sato, late 50s, smooth suit, calm eyes. He nodded to me politely, the kind of nod that said he clocked everything in the room. Gordon waved us into a private dining room with a wall of windows facing the ocean. The table was set like a ritual. Candles, heavy silverware, a quiet hum of money. Gordon took the head of the table. Mr. Sato sat to his right. Lauren sat to his left. I got the seat that said, husband, decoration, witness. Gordon ordered for everyone without asking. Lauren laughed at his jokes, high, clean laughs that sounded practiced. Mr. Sato listened with polite restraint, nodding at the right moments. Gordon talked about family and loyalty like those were products he sold, not things you lived. He toasted Lauren's leadership. He joked about how I was the guy who fixed problems. Evan keeps the lights on, Gordon said in English, raising his glass. Not glamorous, but necessary. Lauren smiled at that like it was affectionate, like it wasn't a reduction. I played my role too. Small comments, neutral smile, the reliable man beside the shining daughter. Then the conversation slid into Japanese, and Gordon didn't even glance at me. Assumptions are armor until they aren't. Gordon's Japanese was confident, fluent enough to be dangerous. He spoke like a man who believed no one in the room could challenge him in the language he'd chosen as his safe space. At first it was normal business, deadlines, projections, soft talk about mutual benefit. Then his tone shifted. He got sharper, direct. The polite layer peeled back. He said my name carefully, like he was placing it on a scale. Then he said the sentence that changed everything. Replace him cleanly. No drama, no noise. Remove the husband from the picture, slide Lauren into place like a new signature on a contract, and keep the partnership moving. Mr. Sato's eyes flicked to me for half a second, like he was checking if I understood. Lauren kept smiling, either unaware or pretending to be. I took a sip of water and felt something cold settle in my chest. Not rage. Rage is hot and loud and stupid. What I felt was math. They weren't even whispering. They were discussing me, like I was already gone. Back at the table, Lauren kept touching her phone like it was hot. Gordon talked in English about family values and legacy, while his knee bounced under the linen. Mr. Sato remained polite, but I noticed his eyes, how they measured Gordon's confidence and my silence. At one point, Gordon laughed and said in English, "Evan here keeps our properties running. He's useful." He said useful, the way you talk about a generator, something you want nearby, but never at the head of the table. Lauren looked at me then, and for a second I saw it. The calculation. The question of whether I would behave, whether I'd stay small. I nodded. "Happy to help," I said. Her smile returned, relieved. The performance continued. After dessert, Gordon excused himself to take a call. Lauren stood too, smoothing her dress again, that same motion like a tell. "I'm going to the restroom," she said. "I'll come," I replied, just to test the air between us. "It's fine," she said too quickly. "Be right back." She disappeared into the hallway. 10 minutes passed. 15. I watched Gordon's face the whole time. No worry, no impatience. Just calm certainty, like Lauren being gone was part of the plan, not a surprise. Gordon returned, checked his watch, and didn't look concerned. That was the part that mattered. A husband is supposed to worry. A father-in-law is supposed to at least pretend. "We'll move to the lounge," Gordon said. Quieter. Lauren still didn't return. The lounge was leather chairs and a real fireplace because fake fire was for people who couldn't afford to burn money. Mr. Sato opened a folder. Gordon opened a laptop. One of Sato's colleagues paced near the window, murmuring into a phone. I watched the hallway. I know buildings. I know traffic patterns. I know the difference between restroom and escape. In the mirror behind the bar, I caught movement. Lauren with a younger man in a fitted sport coat. Dark hair, sharp jaw, confidence that looked practiced. He leaned in too close. His hand brushed the small of her back like it belonged there. Lauren laughed softly, turned her face so her hair hid her expression, and moved with him toward the elevators. My stomach didn't drop. It tightened, like a fist closing. I didn't chase them upstairs. Not yet. If I ran after them, I'd be the story. I'd be the angry husband making a scene in a luxury resort. So I did what I do for work. I gathered facts. I walked to the front desk. A supervisor named James wore a polite smile that looked tired. "Evening," I said. "Can you help me with something quick?" "Of course, sir." "I'm handling an expense report," I said, holding up my key sleeve. "I need to confirm whether our reservation has an added guest attached. Not a name, just yes or no." He hesitated. "Sir, I can't—" "I'm not asking who," I said. "Just whether it affects the invoice category. My employer audits everything." He typed. His eyebrows lifted for a fraction. "There is an added guest," he said quietly. Added guest. It sounded like paperwork. It felt like a knife. "Thank you," I said, and walked away before he could rethink his answer. Outside the lounge, I took a service corridor marked Authorized Personnel Only. The door wasn't locked. I wasn't hiding. A camera watched the hallway. I waved at it on purpose so nobody could later claim I was sneaking. The corridor smelled like laundry soap and hot metal. A cart rolled somewhere. A radio crackled. Normal building sounds. Normal lies happening above them. At the end of the corridor, through a small window in a stairwell door, I saw the next level. Lauren and the man by a room door. He held a key sleeve. She took it with a grin that didn't belong in our marriage. His hand slid to her waist. It wasn't suspicion anymore. It was a scene. I stood in that service corridor for a long second, listening to my own breathing and the distant, muffled laughter from the lounge. There was a time, years ago, when I would have blamed myself first, when I would have wondered what I did wrong, what I missed, what I should fix. That's the trap. If you're the kind of man who fixes things, you start believing everything is fixable if you just work harder. But some people don't want repair. They want replacement. I could have exploded right there. I could have kicked open doors and shouted her name through the hallway until someone called security. That's what she expected. That's what Gordon wanted. Evan Price, unstable husband, making a spectacle, ruining the deal out of jealousy. So I did the thing that felt impossible. I stepped back. I returned to the lobby bar and ordered club soda. I waited like a man with nothing to hide. The hardest part wasn't staying calm. It was swallowing the instinct to beg for a different reality. A part of me still wanted Lauren to walk in and say, "I was wrong. I'm sorry. I got carried away." But she didn't live in that world anymore. Neither did Gordon. The bartender slid the glass toward me. The bubbles sounded too cheerful. Lauren came back alone 10 minutes later, lipstick perfect, hair slightly less controlled. She walked toward Gordon like she'd only taken a phone call. I stood as she passed. "Hey?" She froze for half a beat, long enough to prove she'd forgotten I existed. "Evan?" she said, too bright. "There you are." "I'm right here," I replied. Her eyes flicked toward the lounge. "Dad's waiting." "And so am I," I said. Gordon appeared with Mr. Sato, smile on. "Everything okay?" "Fine," Lauren said fast. They tried to herd me back into my role. Gordon guided Mr. Sato toward the lounge like a man steering a shopping cart. And then I changed the air. I turned to Mr. Sato and spoke in Japanese, calm and respectful. "Mr. Sato, may I ask a quick question about the partnership terms?" The lobby went quiet in a way you can feel on your skin. Lauren's mouth opened. Gordon's eyes widened, then sharpened. Mr. Sato's posture shifted. He looked relieved, like someone had finally turned on the lights. "Of course," he answered in Japanese. Gordon forced a laugh. "He's joking." I kept my eyes on Mr. Sato. "Is your company comfortable partnering with an organization where decision-making is unstable?" Gordon snapped in Japanese, trying to seize the language. "Evan doesn't need to be involved. He doesn't understand the family business." "I understand what I heard tonight," I replied in Japanese. Lauren stepped closer, confusion turning into anger. "What are you talking about?" I looked at her. "Your dad said, replace him cleanly. About me." Gordon's smile disappeared. "We're in public. Don't make a scene." "I'm not," I said. "I'm having a conversation." Mr. Sato's eyes stayed calm. "Trust is important," he said. Then, in English so everyone could hear, he added, "We won't sign today. We will pause. We will request documentation and reconsider leadership roles." Gordon went pale. Lauren stared at Mr. Sato like he'd stabbed her with etiquette. Gordon pointed at the hallway. "Leave." I nodded once. "Okay," I said. "Then we're clear." I didn't leave the building. I just stopped pretending. I didn't sleep much. I lay in the dark of my room listening to the ocean hit the rocks, each wave sounding like something heavy being dragged and dropped. Lauren didn't text. She didn't check if I was okay. She didn't ask where I was. At 2 a.m., I heard laughter in the hallway. Brief, close. Then a door closed softly. A hotel door closing is a small sound, but that night it landed like a verdict. By morning, my mind was already building a checklist. That night, I collected facts the way I collect wiring diagrams. Carefully, cleanly, without drama. At the bar, the bartender, Maya, watched me with the expression of someone who'd seen rich people cheat on their vows like it was part of the resort package. "You okay?" she asked. "You ever feel like you're the only sober person at a party?" I said. She gave a dry smile. "Every night." I nodded toward the hallway. "That guy with my wife, has he been here before?" Maya's eyes flicked to the cameras, then back to me. "I don't get involved." "I'm not asking you to," I said. "Just reality." She exhaled. "He's been here, a few times, always with her. He tips big." I thanked her and didn't ask anything else. Innocent people don't deserve to get dragged into someone else's mess. I went back to the front desk and asked for a printed folio for work. James handed it over. It listed an additional guest fee. No name, just cost. Truth with a price tag. Outside in the valet lane, the ocean wind hit hard. The pavement glistened with melting snow. Under the security lights, I spotted the man's glossy black coupe parked half in a restricted area. Authorized vehicles only. Tau enforced. I didn't touch the car. I took a photo of the plate and the sign in one frame. Time-stamped. Clean. Near midnight, the man returned with Lauren. I followed at a distance, slow, obvious, like any guest out for air. If anyone asked, I was going to my car. Truth. He stopped by his car and turned to face me. "You lost, man?" he said. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be," I replied. Lauren crossed her arms, chin lifted. The way she held herself told me she'd already decided I was the inconvenience, not the marriage. The man's cologne was heavy. He looked at me like a dog looks at a fence. Testing. "I'm Tyler," he said, like it mattered. "I didn't ask," I said. Lauren's eyes flashed. "Evan, stop. This is embarrassing." I nodded toward the sign. "Your car's in a tow area." Tyler snorted. "So?" "So policies get enforced," I said. Tyler stepped toward me like he wanted a clean little shove in the dark. I walked to the valet manager and showed him the photo. "If this is okay," I said, "your signage is meaningless. If it's not, your policy's being ignored." The valet manager's face hardened. "Sir," he called to Tyler, "move that vehicle." Tyler puffed up. "You can't tow my car." "We can and we will," the manager replied. An off-duty police officer near the entrance shifted into view. "Sir," he said to Tyler, calm but firm, "back up." Tyler's bravado turned into embarrassment in real time. He got in and moved the car. I leaned close enough for only him to hear. "Walk back to her room," I said softly, "or explain why you can't even park where you belong." Lauren watched, unsettled. Control was slipping, and I hadn't raised my voice once. I showered, dressed, and went downstairs like I was heading to a job site. My body wanted to do 100 useless things. Call Lauren, demand answers, pound on Gordon's door. My brain kept repeating one instruction: don't feed the machine. In the lobby, I passed couples in matching sweaters, laughing over breakfast plans. They looked at me and saw a normal man. That normalcy felt like camouflage. Gordon summoned me to a conference suite like he was calling a contractor to fix a leak. Lauren sat beside him in a pale suit, jaw tight. Mr. Sato sat across with a legal aide, Mika Tanaka, watching everything like a camera with a memory. Gordon didn't offer a seat. "Sit," he ordered. I sat. Lauren didn't look at me at first. She stared at a point on the table, jaw clenched, as if eye contact might let something real leak out. Gordon folded his hands like a priest. "We're going to clear something up," he said, voice sweet enough to rot teeth. "I agree," I replied. Gordon tried to steer the narrative immediately. "Evan is stressed," he said to Mr. Sato in English. "He misunderstood a private conversation. He gets intense when he feels threatened." The word intense was a trap, a label. The first brick in the story they wanted. I turned to Mr. Sato and spoke in Japanese, calm and direct. "Last night you heard Mr. Hale describe a plan involving me being removed, correct?" Mr. Sato answered precisely. "Yes." Gordon snapped. "That is not—" I held up a hand, calm. "If your company partners with someone who treats family as disposable tools," I said to Mr. Sato, "that instability will reach you too." Mr. Sato looked at Gordon. "Trust is important." Then he switched to English, so there was no hiding. "We will not sign today. We will request governance and oversight, and we will reconsider leadership roles." Gordon flushed. Lauren's face tightened like she was holding back a scream. For a split second, she looked less like a polished executive and more like someone cornered in a room she thought she controlled. "You're sabotaging my future," she said. "No," I replied. "I'm refusing to let you steal mine." Gordon leaned forward and lowered his voice like it was a bribe. "Name your price." "I already did," I said. His eyes narrowed. "What does that mean?" "It means you don't get to erase me," I said. Not quietly, not with a smile. I stood. I offered no threats, no drama. I walked out and let the hallway swallow me. My hands shook once the door shut behind me. Adrenaline, not fear. I understood something fully now. They weren't just cheating. They were building a story where I was unstable, jealous, dangerous. A man to be removed for everyone's safety. On the drive home from Seacliff, I kept replaying Gordon's Japanese like it was a recording stuck in a loop. Replace him cleanly. The phrase sounded clinical, like removing a tumor. It was worse than an insult. An insult at least admits you're human. That phrase turned me into a problem. I thought about the early years with Lauren, the cheap apartment, the night shifts, how she used to fall asleep on the couch waiting for me when I did overtime. Somewhere along the line, she stopped waiting. Then she stopped pretending she noticed. By the time we got to Seacliff, I'd already been living in a ghost version of my marriage. I just hadn't admitted it. Back in the city, my phone lit up nonstop. Lauren, Gordon, unknown numbers, voicemails that I didn't play because I could already hear the tone. I didn't answer. I met my friend Caleb Morris, an old security systems tech who understood evidence better than emotions. His apartment smelled like solder and black coffee. He listened without interrupting, tapping his finger on the table like a clock. When I finished, he slid his phone across the table. "Yesterday someone called me," he said. Polished voice. "Asked if you've ever been violent, if you have anger issues, if you follow your wife." My throat went dry. "Lauren," I said. "Or Gordon," Caleb replied. "They're building a narrative. They want you to explode so they can point and say, 'See?'" A text hit my phone from Lauren. "You showed up and scared me. Don't contact me. My lawyer will be in touch." Then another number. "If you keep harassing Lauren, we will file an emergency complaint. Stop now." I stared at the screen, feeling the trap close. If I reacted emotionally, I'd feed it. If I went to our apartment, I'd be showing up. If I called, I'd be harassing. If I begged, I'd be unstable. Caleb's voice stayed steady. "No calls, no visits, everything in writing, everything witnessed. You're not giving them a single frame they can use." I turned my phone off. The blank screen felt like oxygen. If Gordon wanted to replace me cleanly, fine, I'd be cleaner. That night I wrote myself a rule on a sticky note and slapped it on Caleb's fridge. No private moments, no hallway arguments, no late-night calls, no one last conversation in a parking lot. Everything visible, everything documented. If they were building a story, I'd force it to include the truth. Dana's office was quiet in the way that makes you lower your voice automatically. Law books, frosted glass, a waiting room that smelled like paper and old coffee. She listened while I spoke, and she didn't interrupt once, not even when my voice tightened. When I finished, she said, "You're angry." "Yes." "That's normal," she said. "But anger is not evidence. Evidence is evidence." I nodded. She wrote 2 lines on a yellow pad, public witnesses. "Your job," she said, tapping the pad, "is to be boring. You understand?" I almost laughed. "I can do boring." "Good," she said, "because they're trying to make you look dangerous. The safest thing you can do is act like a man who knows the rules and follows them." Then she handed me a second card. "Process server," she said, "if we need one quickly." My throat tightened. "How quickly?" Dana's eyes didn't soften. "As soon as you're ready to stop living inside their story." Seacliff Lodge hosted a partnership presentation that evening. Investors, a few local reporters, branded backdrop. Gordon loved microphones because microphones can't argue back. I checked in like a normal guest. Sweater, jeans, boring. In the conference hallway, Lauren spotted me and marched over, phone already raised like a shield. "What are you doing here?" she snapped, loud enough for heads to turn. "I'm a registered guest," I said evenly, "and you approached me." "You're harassing me," she said for the camera. "I am not," I replied. "Please step back. Please stop recording me." Gordon slid in beside her, smiling with his teeth. "Evan, this is not the place." "It's a public venue," I said. "And you invited me here 2 nights ago, remember?" Lauren's eyes narrowed. She wanted me ugly. She wanted a raised voice, a clenched fist, something she could label. I stayed plain. I stayed procedural. Then Tyler appeared from a side hallway, shoulders squared like he was there to handle me. He moved too close, speaking low but sharp. "You still here?" he said. "Man, you're pathetic." I took a small step back. Space matters. "Step back," I said. Tyler tried to herd me toward a quieter service corridor near the loading dock. Classic isolation move. Lauren followed, phone up, like she was hunting for the right angle. I let myself drift that direction without being led. Under the exit sign, a black dome camera sat in the corner. I nodded toward it. "Smile," I said softly. "Camera's right there." Tyler froze. Lauren's phone wobbled. Gordon's eyes flicked up, calculating fast. A security supervisor at the corner straightened, suddenly alert. Tyler backed off half a step, his confidence leaking out. I didn't threaten. I didn't posture. I just stood where the truth could be seen. Before Gordon went on stage, there was the usual pre-show chaos. Staff adjusting microphones, a photographer testing flash, Gordon pacing with his phone pressed to his ear. Lauren floated from small group to small group, smiling, touching shoulders, laughing at jokes that weren't funny. Every move said the same thing. I belong here. When she passed me, she didn't stop. She didn't look at me. But her fingers tightened around her phone like she was holding a live wire. The ballroom filled with polite noise. People in wool coats and expensive watches settled into chairs. A photographer adjusted lights near the Hale Development Group banner. Reporters pretended they were just local press, while their eyes searched for conflict. Gordon took the stage and sold vision like it was religion. He spoke the way he always did, slow, confident, like the future was something he personally owned and could lease to everyone else. He spoke about community, growth, partnership, trust, big words that hide small motives. Lauren stood at his side, perfect smile back in place. Tyler hovered near the rear like a shadow, pretending he belonged there. Mr. Sato sat in the front row with Mika Tanaka, calm, sharp, watching like he already knew the ending. Gordon announced Lauren as the leader on their side. Applause, controlled. Lauren stepped up. "I'm honored." I raised my hand, slow and polite. A simple motion, like a question in class. Gordon's smile tightened. Lauren's eyes flashed. "Mr. Hale," I said, loud enough to carry, "before leadership is finalized, I have a question for Mr. Sato." Gordon started. "This isn't—" I turned to Mr. Sato and spoke in Japanese. "Did you request additional documentation and oversight after our meeting? And did you ask to reconsider leadership roles due to ethical and stability concerns?" The room went still. Even the HVAC seemed to pause. Mr. Sato stood and answered in English so no one could pretend not to understand. "Yes," he said. "We requested documentation. We requested governance. We requested a pause." Gordon stepped away from the podium, voice rising. "Mr. Sato, that's a misunderstanding." Mr. Sato raised a hand. "No, it is clarity." I held up the Seacliff folio. My hand didn't shake. That mattered. "This is a hotel invoice showing an additional guest attached to my wife's room," I said. "Fact. No opinions, no guesses, just a line item that exists, whether anyone likes it or not." Lauren's fingers tightened around her phone. Her mouth opened like she was going to deny it, then closed again. Denial doesn't work well against paper. I held up the valet photo. "This shows a vehicle in a restricted tow area and an incident involving staff and security. Fact." I turned to the security supervisor by the doors. "Sir, there was an incident involving Mr. Shaw 2 nights ago, correct?" The supervisor hesitated, glanced at the reporters, then nodded. "Yes, there was an incident." Tyler's face reddened. "Seriously?" The supervisor lifted a hand. "Sir, please." Mika spoke with quiet precision. "Our company cannot proceed under current structure due to reputational risk." Mr. Sato followed, calm and final. "We will not sign with Hale Development Group under current leadership." A ripple of shock moved through the room. Investors shifted. Reporters leaned forward. Gordon's entire world, built on appearance, started to crack in fluorescent light. Lauren spun toward me, voice breaking. "You ruined everything." I kept my tone even. "I revealed it," I said. She lunged for my folder like paper could be erased by grabbing. Security moved between us. In front of witnesses, she looked exactly like the unstable person she'd tried to paint me as. People don't like being in the room when a powerful man loses control. They scatter. They pretend they have places to be. They look at their phones like the screen can shield them from discomfort. The ballroom emptied into chaos. Gordon tried to block reporters with talk about private family matters. Mr. Sato repeated his decision without raising his voice. The more Gordon demanded control, the smaller he looked. Lauren stormed into the lobby after me, Tyler close behind, Gordon barking threats like they were commands. Lauren's cheeks were flushed, her eyes were wet, but the tears didn't make her soft, they made her sharper. Outside under the awning, cold air and wet pavement reflected security lights. Snow fell lightly, the kind that looks peaceful until it piles up. Lauren's voice was sharp and desperate. "You think you won," she said. "You think you're a hero." "I'm not a hero," I said. "I'm the husband you treated like a placeholder." Tyler stepped forward, fists tight. "This isn't over," he said. An off-duty officer moved in, calm but firm. "Sir, back up." Tyler's hands twitched like he wanted to argue. Then he saw the officer's face, bored, ready, not impressed. Tyler backed off because men like him understand authority better than morality. Gordon lowered his voice, switching tactics. "Name a number. We can settle." "You don't get to buy your way out of being seen," I said. Lauren raised her phone again. "He's threatening us," she announced for the recording. I turned to her camera and spoke like a statement. "I am not threatening anyone. Please stop approaching me. All communication will go through counsel." Mr. Sato and Mika walked out then, heading to their car. Gordon rushed toward them. Mr. Sato, wait. Mr. Sato paused at the curb. In Japan, he said evenly, we do not respect people who betray trust and then demand forgiveness like it is owed. Gordon flinched like the truth had weight. Mr. Sato nodded once at me, respect, not friendship, then got into the car. The door shut softly, final. Security stepped toward Tyler. Mr. Shaw, you need to leave the property now. Tyler's eyes darted to Lauren like she was supposed to rescue him. Lauren looked away, because the moment a man stops being useful, she pretends she never knew him. I'd been living that truth for months. Tyler protested, but the supervisor's voice hardened. You're being trespassed due to repeated disturbances. Lauren grabbed Gordon's arm, panic rising. Gordon looked between her and Tyler, suspicion flickering now that his deal was dying in public, and his daughter's choices were bleeding into it. I walked back toward the lobby doors, steady, and didn't look back. Lauren didn't follow me back inside right away. She stayed under the awning like the cold was punishment she deserved and refused to accept. Gordon hovered beside her, still barking into his phone like volume could reverse what just happened. The security supervisor kept his distance, close enough to intervene, far enough to avoid becoming part of their story. I stood inside the lobby near the windows where people could see me clearly. I wanted visibility. I wanted the cameras to love me. Not because I trusted cameras, but because I trusted patterns. And patterns don't lie when everything's recorded. Lauren burst back through the sliding doors 10 minutes later, cheeks red, eyes bright with that shaky fury that tries to dress itself up as righteousness. Tyler wasn't with her now. That should have comforted me. It didn't. Without him, she had more room to perform. She marched straight toward the front desk, toward James, the same supervisor who had printed my folio the night before. I need security, she said, loud enough for half the lobby to hear. He's harassing me. The sentence hit like a switch being flipped. Heads turned. A couple near the fireplace went still. A bellman slowed with luggage in hand. James looked at her, then at me, unsure which reality he was supposed to serve. I didn't move toward her. I didn't say her name. I didn't react the way she wanted. I walked to a seating area a few steps away and sat down, hands visible on my knees, posture calm, like I was waiting for a flight. The off-duty officer from earlier stepped inside, his face neutral. He approached the front desk, then glanced at me. Sir, he said, what's going on? Lauren answered before I could. He keeps showing up where I am. He's trying to ruin my life. He's threatening my family. I kept my voice level. I'm a registered guest, I said. I'm not approaching her. I'm not contacting her. She came to me outside and she came to me again just now. Lauren's mouth tightened. You're lying. The officer didn't react to her tone. He didn't react to mine. He looked at the front desk. Do you have cameras covering the entrance and lobby? He asked James. Yes, James said quickly. Multiple angles. Good, the officer said, then looked back at Lauren. Ma'am, if you're making a complaint, we can take a statement. But you need to understand something. If the footage shows he's not doing what you're claiming, that matters. Lauren blinked. Her confidence twitched. Gordon appeared behind her, forcing his way into the space like he owned it. Officer, this man is unstable, he said. He's been sabotaging a business partnership. He's emotionally threatening my daughter. The officer's gaze stayed steady. Sir, I'm going to ask you to step back. Let her speak for herself. Gordon bristled, but he stepped back half a pace. That half pace told me everything about the kind of authority he was used to. Lauren lifted her phone. I have him on video, she said. The officer didn't even glance at it. Video can start wherever you want it to start, he said. The hotel cameras don't. Lauren's hand shook slightly as she lowered the phone. The security supervisor came over then, professional and careful. Ma'am, he said, we've already had multiple disturbances involving your group. If this continues, We'll need to separate parties on property. Lauren snapped, "So you're taking his side?" "I'm taking the side of policy," the supervisor replied, "and the side of the cameras." That word, cameras, landed hard. Lauren's eyes flicked to me, and for a second I saw the panic behind the anger. Not panic because she loved me. Panic because she realized the story she was trying to build had a problem. Reality. The officer turned to me. "Sir, do you want to make a statement?" "Yes," I said. He nodded and stepped aside with a small notepad. I spoke slowly, cleanly, like I was dictating an email. "My name is Evan Price," I said. "I have not threatened Lauren Hale or Gordon Hale. I have not contacted Lauren directly since she told me not to. Tonight she approached me outside and accused me of threats while recording. I responded by asking her to stop approaching me and to communicate through counsel. I am requesting that any contact go through attorneys." The officer wrote. Then he looked up. "Any weapons? Any history of violence?" "No," I said, "and you can check." Lauren's jaw tightened. Gordon's face flushed. The officer looked at Lauren. "Ma'am, do you still want to file a complaint?" Lauren hesitated. Just a beat too long. Gordon jumped in. "Yes," he said. "We want this documented." The officer's eyes narrowed slightly. "Sir, she has to answer." Lauren swallowed. Her voice came out smaller than before. I want it noted that I feel unsafe." The officer wrote that exact phrase, "feel unsafe," like it was what it was, a feeling, not a fact. He closed the notepad. "All right," he said. "This is documented. Now I'm going to recommend something. No more contact. You two stay away from each other. If either party approaches the other again, that becomes the issue." Lauren stared at him. Gordon stared at the ceiling like he was praying for a different world. The officer nodded once at me. "Sir, you handled that correctly." And that was the moment I knew something important. They could call me unstable 100 times, but one calm statement in front of witnesses weighed more than all their shouting. Lauren backed away from the desk, clutching her phone like it could still save her. She looked at me like she wanted to say something that would cut deep. Instead, she said the last thing she had left. "You're going to regret this," she whispered. I didn't answer. I just watched her walk away because regret only works as a threat when you still have control. Inside, the lobby felt normal again. Fireplace glow, quiet music, strangers laughing like the world hadn't just shifted for 3 people outside. Normal life has a cruel talent. It keeps going. I watched a couple take selfies by the tree. I watched a kid drag a stuffed animal across the carpet. I watched a bellman carry bags like human drama didn't exist. And I realized something simple. Gordon's power only worked inside rooms where people agreed to play along. Outside those rooms, he was just a man in a coat trying to bargain with consequences. I sat near the windows until my hands stopped shaking, not because I regretted it, because adrenaline is honest. Then Dana Mercer walked in with a man in a plain suit holding a folder, a process server. Dana didn't smile. She just nodded at me once and headed straight outside. Through the glass, I watched the process server approach Lauren under the awning. He held out the documents calmly, professionally, like the world wasn't interested in her feelings. Lauren tried to step back. The server adjusted his stance and waited. No chasing, no arguing. Procedure. Lauren finally snatched the papers. Her eyes scanned the first page. I watched her expression shift in layers. Anger first, then confusion, then disbelief, then a kind of blank shock that looked almost peaceful for one terrifying second, like her brain shut down to protect itself. Then, reality broke through. She screamed, raw and shocked, not for the camera this time, but because the ground under her had turned to water. Dana came back inside and stopped beside me. "It's done," she said quietly. I exhaled. "Thank you." "Remember," she said, "no contact. Everything through counsel. I know, I said. I stood and walked out. My legs felt heavy, like my body hadn't caught up to what my mind had already accepted. Lauren's eyes found mine through the glass, full of fury and something like fear. For a moment, it looked like she wanted to say my name, like it meant something other than ownership, like she could rewrite the last few days with a single sentence, but she didn't have that power anymore. I got into my car, shut the door, and the sound cut her off. The cabin smelled like old leather and winter air. My hands rested on the steering wheel, and for a second, I just sat there, listening to the engine idle like a heartbeat. I thought about how many times I'd swallowed my instincts to keep the peace, how many times I'd told myself I was imagining it, how many times I'd chosen silence because silence felt like maturity. Silence isn't maturity when it's forced on you. It's surrender. I put the car in drive. As I pulled away, the ocean flashed between the pines, dark, restless, honest. The resort shrank behind me, all glass and warmth and money, and I understood something I'd never had language for before. Gordon's power lived in rooms where people agreed not to notice the rot. I wasn't agreeing anymore. At the first stop sign outside the lodge, my phone stayed off. No calls, no last messages, no dramatic goodbye, just discipline. I merged onto the coastal road and drove with both hands on the wheel, steady. In the rearview mirror, the awning lights made the valet lane look like a stage. Lauren stood there clutching the papers, shoulders shaking. Gordon leaned over her, trying to read, trying to control. Security stayed close, not touching, just present. Tyler was already gone from the frame, escorted out like he'd never mattered. Then Lauren did something I didn't expect. She stopped shouting. She stopped moving. She just stared at the first page like it had turned into a mirror. Because the bold heading wasn't warning or cease and desist, the fantasy she'd built to scare me. It was a filed petition with court stamps and dates. It was a request for exclusive use of the marital home, documented financial restraints, and a formal notice that all contact would go through counsel. It was clean. It was public. It was real. From the road, I couldn't hear her, but I saw the moment the message landed. Her mouth opened, and this time the scream wasn't anger. It was shock. The kind that happens when you realize the person you thought you could erase has already moved the world without asking your permission. The lodge doors slid shut behind them, sealing their chaos inside a building built for appearances. And for the first time in a long time, I drove with steady hands, because the story they tried to write about me was over.